up with 3 road games against Texas, Alabama, and Ole Miss. Now, Jordan, how do you prepare for this type of schedule?
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to College Football Live.
Changes for Georgia, right? Kirby Smart was indoctrinated under the master of one game at a time, the GOAT, Nick Saban, who lives it on a daily basis. So nothing changes for them, and I think it helps that Clemson's first. It's hard to look past the Clemson. If you had a non-conference game to start the season, well, you might look past it a little bit. But that's not the case for this Georgia football team. And the other thing, when this schedule was released, 15 other teams in the SEC went, do we have to play Georgia? They hurried to look at the schedule. Do we have to play Georgia? Georgia didn't hurry to look to see if they had to play anybody. Everyone has to play Georgia, and that's just the state of the SEC right now.
They actually have the 3rd toughest schedule in the FBS. Now, Greg, that is according to ESPN Analytics. Now, Greg, what's the biggest difference this year for Georgia?
Well, I think really the last couple of years, the biggest change is the schedule. I mean, in the SEC East and the divisions, the SEC East, in most cases, at least in the last decade, a little bit more manageable than the SEC West, where it was kind of a gauntlet with what LSU had done, and Bama had done, and A&M's had some great years, Auburn's had some great years. So you look, and Ole Miss as well, or not forgetting about them. Looking at the schedule, though, now, it's like 3 teams that are ranked in the top 10 in the preseason at those 3 places, at Bama, at Texas, at Ole Miss. Very, very difficult. I also think, too, when you look at the best versions of Georgia, and when you're this good, you're the alpha dog program in the sport, according to many, you're going to be measured against yourself. So you could say, well, hey, look, the defensive line, for instance, maybe it's just not quite as good as it's been in 2021 and 2022 when they won the national championship. Doesn't mean it's not maybe one of the best in the country. It's just maybe not where it's once was. So I think that's kind of the problem, is they're kind of chasing ghosts a little bit because of how good those teams were in both 2021 and 22.
A lot of folks, of course, are worried about playing Georgia. And Georgia has only lost 2 games in the last 3 years, and Carson Beck is coming off a season in which he set Georgia's single-season record for completion percentage, and he spoke earlier today on the road to get to this point in his career.
Those first 3 years were really tough, especially, getting a little scrap time, getting playing time, but it wasn't real playing time. But obviously I knew that one day I was going to get that opportunity, and I think that's what helped me stay and, helped me to continue to compete and try to get better each and every day and just keep progressing, because I knew when I got that opportunity, I just wanted to be ready. So once I did, come out, finally get there, and I'm super excited.
He is a great example of college football. The day and age
We're on ESPN2 for today's SEC Media Day, Day 2.
He stuck it out. He stuck it out now, and he didn't get a starting job in a tough moment when the starter went down, and he lost starting job to Stetson Bennett the week of UAB game 2 years ago, and then said, you know what, I'm sticking with it.
Who wants to know
persevere,
what
cross over resiliency, which is one of
What
our
did that
core traits,
start?
and he
What's
did that.
that in there?
He stuck it out, and Carson Beck is
And just
back for
arrived
year
at the-
2 in Georgia. And there's a lot of hype around this QB. He's considered not only to be the first overall pick, but also one of the favorites to win the Heisman. So let's talk year 2, Jordan. With all the hype, how does someone like Carson Beck manage the pressure both on an individual level, but also overall with leading his team?
Yeah, I think you
It's
show up to
tell me
SEC
what
Media
Jonathan
Days in a
Taylor
mock
we're
turtleneck and a
looking
chain.
for
I mean, he's one of the best
inventory.
players in the entire country. Now he's one of the best dressed. I've been trying to get Greg to rock one of those forever. It's tough to know. I know.
And that is
I've worn a
for...
mock turtleneck before, but it was because I had nothing else.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a
what
long
you
time
doing
ago.
right
Yeah.
now?
All right, in all seriousness, there is a lot of pressure around this program just because
Well,
the standard
you
of
ain't not gonna
excellence is that they go undefeated. That's kind of the standard for Georgia right now. Carson Beck in particular, he just needs to continue to not try to do too much, right? A lot of quarterbacks will jump off the tape because they're incredibly fast, athletic, or this huge arm. And yes, he has all the physical tools, but what jumps out when you watch him is how efficient he is, how quickly the ball comes out of his hands, how accurate he is. So continue to not force throws, continue to play the quarterback position in a calm manner, and I think he's going to continue to have success. But one thing that Kirby said today about leadership as a whole, he said this spring they're really pushing him to celebrate more with his teammates, be more excited, because naturally he's kind of like a status quo, no emotion kind of guy, and they want him to get more involved so he takes a little bit more of that leadership role.
I think guys will gravitate towards that too. I mean, it's just, he has so much game, but the charisma now, I think, is the next part of the evolution and making sure guys gravitate towards him.
Well, it's that turtleneck. It's all
Yeah, can I reach out to the
You gotta know when you have to play. 100%.
100%. But now that he's played and he's accomplished, like he can really be
no, you
comfortable
don't
in
like
his own
that.
skin and
What
have a
do
lot
you
of
love?
fun.
You love
Because he's
it. You
proven
got
that he
that,
can
but
play
then you
as
have to
well as
want
anybody in the
to
sport
what is
at
that
that
called?
position. And I look last year too. Really the first
Called
2 to 3 games kind of held him back a little bit. Like, hey man, we don't want to put you in an uncomfortable spot. And then the Kentucky game rolled around. And they said, all right, it's time to unleash you on the college football world. And from that point forward, he was really lights out. So I think the sky's the limit for this young man. He's got great ball placement. Really cerebral and has a great feel for what they want to be offensively.
We'll see that emotion as well. Now, Carson Beck will, of course, be without his go-to target, tight end Brock Bowers, who was selected in this year's draft 13 overall by the Raiders. He was essential in Georgia's success. He was not only the first Bulldog to win a John Mackey Award for college football's best tight end, but the first player to win twice overall. Now, there is no doubt that Brock Bowers was such a key point to Georgia's offense. Now, Jordan, what can we expect the offense to look like this year without him?
Well, I think it's going to look similar in some elements, but if you take a player like Brock Bowers off the field, then something's going to change. He was such a chess piece